Okay, good day everyone. So my name is Realyn Erich, Rica, and today I will be discussing about the learning characteristics of the learners with difficulty in communicating. So children with communication disorders frequently struggle across social settings, whether at home, school, or in the other places in the community. Some of the difficulties that characterize communication disorders are presented. So there is the next slide. So uh, there are indicators of learning characteristics of learners with difficulty in communicating. So first indicators is the language difficulties. So in language difficulties, there is different types of language difficulties. So first is the expressive language difficulties. So expressive language difficulties, learners is struggles in vocabulary, so they are limited in vocabulary. Of course, in grammar, so incorrect grammar or syntax, and excessive repetition of information. So there is some of students that they are not capable of coping up gid sa kanang mga information. So some matawag na og mga moingon sila og late bloomers. So other is difficulty in formulating questions and difficulty in constructing sentences. So learners with communication disorders, so they are struggling in formulating questions and constructing sentences. So next type of language difficulties is the receptive language difficulties. So those are learners with struggling in following oral directions, and also they are struggling in understanding humor or figurative language, and of course they are limited in comprehending compound and complex sentences. And lastly, they are struggling in responding to questions appropriately. So, children with communication disorders may also experience behavioral difficulties. So, because they struggle in expressing their needs and ideas, some children resort to inappropriate behaviors out of frustration or to get attention. For example, is a child may grab toys or hit peers instead of using words. So, of course, in learners with difficulty in communicating, so they are not expressing their ideas or emotions by using their words. So by expressing their emotions, they are using their physical actions. They are inappropriate behaviors. They are not express their ideas by talking, by expressing their needs. So they are using their physical actions. So typically, developing children can say phrases like may I borrow. So mao na ni, for example, kining nga children nga na-develop na gid ang ilang communication skills. So they are asking for may I borrow or it's my turn. So but in a children with communication difficulties, they are not express their emotions clearly and may instead act physically. So thus teachers and professionals must consider these challenges. So as an educator, so as a teacher, so we should consider those learners with difficulties in communication, so that children may not frustration, may are not worsen this kind of difficulties. So we should understand those learners with this kind of difficulties, which is the communication difficulties. So despite these difficulties, children with communication disorders also have strengths. So of course, kanang dili masadtanan nga student is dili sa tanan nga katong student nga naay difficulties in communication is they are below. So naapod sila kanang mga skills nga they are strengths. So some students, some learners with communication disorders, they have a lot of strengths. So using the theory of multiple intelligence, children may excel in areas like special skills, musical ability, bodily kinesthetic skills. So there are a lot of theory of multiple intelligences. So naatoy katong visual skills, spatial skills, musical ability, and bodily kinesthetic skills. So those students nga with communication disorders, they are excel in spatial skills, which is students who excel in painting, sculpture, or mga arts nga mga talents. So in musical ability, communication disorders learners is they are excel of course in musical ability. Kabantay mo ng mga students, mga children nga with disorders, not only in communication disorders, they are capable of doing musical instrument. They are more on musical, hands-on musical instrument gid sila. So of course, learners with difficulties or with disorders, they are not only weak, they are a lot of strengths sad ang mga naay children with disorders. So in communication disorders, they are spatial skills, excel in spatial skills, excel in musical ability, and of course, excel in bodily kinesthetic skills. So mao ni ang mga students or learners nga more on dance, more on movements sa ilahang body. So a child may struggle with communication but be talented in music, arts, or sports. It is important to recognize and highlight these strengths in an inclusive classroom. So when we talk about inclusive classroom, kabalo naman taan na nga, of course, all students are included in the classroom settings. So we cannot exclude those students with communication disorders, physical disorders, and mga students nga late bloomers. So we should include those students in our classroom settings so that we enhance in our classroom settings the environment, the harmonious environment, so that all students are they are enhance their unity skills. So of course ang mga student is ma-unity sila, they are maka-collaborate with sila sa ilang classmates, so that dapat in inclusive classroom, in inclusive education, we should recognize and highlight the strengths, not only for the students that without difficulties. We should highlight those students nga naay mga disorders. I-highlight nato ang ilang strengths, not only sa ilang mga weaknesses, so that ang mga student is ma-apply nila ug ma-enhance nila ang ilahang communication skills. Of course, ang ilahang to build their confidence para dili pud sila ang mauwaw sa ilang mga kanang classmate nga kanaang naay in a right condition. So we are done in the learner's characteristics of learners with difficulty in communicating. So let us proceed to general education adaptations. Different strategies and accommodations can help children with communication difficulties succeed. This includes the use of universal design for learnings or UDL. So let's proceed to universal design for learning. So, universal design for learning or UDL. UDL allows children to learn in different ways, show understanding in different forms, and lastly, stay engaged through varied activities. So, with the help of universal design for learning, a learners with difficulties is that it helps make learning more accessible, flexible, and inclusive for everyone. So, UDL, it is important because it is recognizes that the students learn in different ways. So, teachers provide different methods of teaching, activities, and assessments to support each learner's needs. A teacher is teaching should use multiple methods, a visual or uses pictures and videos, auditory and kinesthetics or the hands-on. Lessons should not rely only on lectures or textbooks. Instead, varied teaching methods help students use their strength and succeed. So for those students who have difficulties in communicating, so we should, as a teacher, we should seek different methods in order for the learners learn more. So by using visual aids, uses pictures and videos, and of course we should louder our voice in discussing, uses auditory, and of course we need have an activities like hands-on activities like experiment, so that learners with difficulties is more engaged and more fun in discussing the lectures or any form of discussions. Next is practical tips for the classroom. Teachers can support students using these strategies. Seat the child near the teacher and away from distractions. So katong students ngan with difficulties in communicating, the seating arrangement as those students have difficulties is on the front near the teacher. Of course, they are far of the distractions. So next is get the child's attention before giving instructions. Of course, we should get the attention of the children so that they can cope up. They can they can cope up what is the given instruction so that they understand how we should do or how they can do. Next is use pictures, charts, and visual aids. So what I've said earlier, that as a teacher we should seek learning methods using visual aids. So we should use pictures, charts, and visual aids. Next is speak slowly and clearly. So in order for us that the learners can learn more, is we should speak slowly and clearly so that all students can understand what
is your ideas? What is your thoughts given by your students? So we should speak slow and clear and concise. So next is break instructions into small steps. In given an instructions for the students, we should give them step by step instructions in order for them to understand the way on how they do that different task. So next is provide written directions so that so we should write those directions in order for them to restore their ideas. Next is use gestures to support understanding. Some students are not more on listening, so we should use different gestures in order for them to understand. Next is use peer support or learning buddies. We should pair those students that have learning difficulties in communicating and pair those students that have a skills in communicating so that they are helping each other. Next is give extra time to speaking activities. So in order to enhance our communicating skills, we should give them activities like speech, something talumpati, something like that. Then next is model correct language and allow wait time 3 to 5 seconds. So they are to correct their language and allow them long time to cope up the different languages. Next is teach important vocabulary explicitly. Next, so these strategies work best in a supportive and respectful classroom. So that's all of my report, and thank you everyone for listening. I hope you all understand what my discussions are. So thank you and have a good day.